Agree with you. I think that's the kind of pluralistic vision we should have. It's the kind of multicultural world I'd love to live in. I think you're right. I think the problem is oftentimes when refugees enter spaces, particularly in the West, we see their culture as corrosive. We see the very presence of Muslims as a challenge to our identity. We see the very presence of brown people as a challenge to our national identity. And as such, we worry about it and we have a collective panic about it. And I agree with you. I also don't like lots of tattoos or Speedos at the beach. But the difference is the way that is understood as a public performance is very different than the way we understand Islamicity or Muslimness in terms of the way we frame it.
I'm gonna just 1 second on this Islamicity and Muslimness. I think we have to be very, very careful about some of the sources of extreme fringe sort of sects of Islam that have become dominant and have become the way the West understands Islam.
Right.
It is not. Most Muslim societies, at least until 20 years ago, were very synchronitic. People lived and
Agreed.
So it is, and it comes to the.
I wasn't saying Islamist. I wasn't saying.
No, it comes to the. It comes actually to some of the geopolitics, because a lot of this is, unfortunately, Saudi funding of mosques and so forth across the world and in England, and that sort of entering into our political discourses in ways that we haven't understood. And people saying, "Oh, this is Islam." It is not.
Right, and they have an anxiety about a particular form of fundamentalist or political Islam. I agree with you. My only
extremist, not fundamentalist. Sorry.
Sure, fair point. Fair point. The words matter. That's an important distinction to make. I can see.
Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. There is a lot to unpack here, folks. A lot in that soundbite. We're going to go back over it so I can give you a little bit of my reaction to it. But right now, we want to welcome everybody. Welcome one and all to the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective on what's going on. And so what's on tap for today? Well, you saw Mark Lamont Hill basically stepped in it and was called out from it by that Muslim lady there. And guess what? There's so much more to unpack in this clip. Let's get to it right now.
Agree with you. I think that's the kind of pluralistic vision we should have. It's the kind of multicultural world I'd love to live in. I think you're right. I think the problem is.
There we go again, right? The globalist world of Mark Lamont, the pluralistic world of Mark Lamont, the kumbaya moment, the kumbaya movement. Everybody is just going to be hunky-dory. That's a utopian vision of Mark Lamont. Listen, you want to have a utopian vision? Okay, that's fine. But Mark wants to put that utopian vision into political practice, into policies. Let's continue.
Oftentimes, when refugees enter spaces, particularly in the West, we see their culture as corrosive. We see the very presence of Muslims as a challenge.
No, who sees that? Who sees refugees, immigrants, asylum seekers as corrosive? These are kind of words. What are you talking about, Mark? Nobody sees it. Yeah, there's some fear-mongering from some, but guess what? There's fear-mongering on the left. There's fear-mongering on the right. You've got stupid, idiotic, moronic retards, people that I call SIMR, my acronym, SIMR, because you just simmer. They're always upset at something. They're on the left. They're on the right. They're white liberal elitists, always doing that. They're race baiters like Reverend Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. And then there's you, Mark Lamont Hill. I consider you to be one of those race baiters as well.
To our identity. We see the very presence of brown people as a challenge to our national identity.
No, nobody sees the presence of brown people. Maybe you do as a black person, see brown person and you challenge that to your identity. But most people don't give a crap. They don't give a shit. No, they don't. They just don't. You want to say that. You want to foment that type of hatred. You want to foment that type of bigotry. You want to continue to do that because guess what? It makes you mucho dinero. And you've got a pulpit to speak from at your university where you teach, if you're still there or not. I don't even know. But don't go around telling, okay, that brown people, and everybody's hating brown people all over the world. You don't know what the freak you're talking about. Some sections, yeah, but a small freaking minority. It's not the freaking majority.
And as such, we worry about it and we have a collective panic about it. And I agree with you. I also don't like lots of
Doug is over here. Look at Doug. He's like going, what the hell are you talking about? He's ready to pounce. When Doug starts doing this and his eyebrow starts twitching up and down, oh man, he's getting ready for beer. Getting ready for beer, baby. Doug just can't get, he's just holding back right now.
Tattoos or Speedos at the beach. But the difference is the way that is understood as a public performance is very different than the way we understand Islamicity or Muslimness in terms of the way we frame it.
Uh-oh, here she comes.
1 second on this Islamicity and Muslimness. I think we have to be very, very...
You stepped in it there, Mark Lamont Hill. You stepped in it. She didn't like that.
Careful about some of the sources of extreme fringe sort of
yes,
sects of Islam that have become dominant
Wahhabism.
and have become
That's
the
what
way
we're talking
the West
about.
understands Islam.
Right.
It is not. Most Muslim societies, at least until 20 years ago, were very synchronitic. People lived and
Agreed.
So it is, and it comes to the.
I wasn't saying Islamist. I wasn't saying.
I mean, it comes actually to some of the geopolitics, because a lot of this is, unfortunately, Saudi funding of mosques across the world and in England, and that sort of entering into our political discourses in ways that we haven't understood. And people saying, "Oh, this is Islam." It is not.
Right, and they have an anxiety about a particular form of fundamentalist or political Islam. I agree with you. My only
extremist, not fundamentalist. Sorry.
Sure, fair point. Fair point. The words matter. That's an important distinction.
Fair point. Fair point. Words matter. Make that distinction. Sorry, don't want to be called a racist. Don't want to be called a bigot. Don't throw the B crowd at me. I don't want to be a bigot. I don't want to be a racist. Don't call me a racist. Sorry about that, brown lady. I'm a black man. I don't want to be called a racist. I don't want to be called a bigot. No, please, please. Oh, please. Oh.
To make. I concede that. I guess my point though is not much different. It's just to say that
no, it's not much different. It's totally different.
In the West, we have a particular fear of that, and it shapes how we respond to the refugee crisis.
Is there an over-exaggeration, Douglas, do you think, in the West, this fear of Islam or anything that looks so different to us?
No, I mean, the society I'm from is one of the most pluralistic and diverse societies on earth. You couldn't get a larger range of people of different backgrounds and ethnicities and languages than you have in Britain.
And
which
it's
is why, once again, if I may push back against this thing you are pushing, which is that these are sort of uniquely bigoted, unwelcoming societies.
Not at all.
The evidence on this part of the stage would suggest that Britain is not,
If anything, I'm giving you the chance to tell us, from your perspective, what...
Well, let's just stop the video here. We'll have that other clip for another time. But I just wanted to basically say, folks, that words matter. Mark Lamont Hill, I certainly would not be calling him out here a bigot, a bigot, a racist, a racist. No. Those are his opinions. And I really, truly, truly, truly believe Mark feels very passionate about his opinions. Now, that lady there, she felt that the wording was incorrect, using the words of Islamicity and Muslimist or whatever. So she sort of, pushed back a little bit on that. Mark probably felt a little bit defensive. And then when he talked about fundamentalism versus, being rebellious or rebelling. And then she pointed out that, extremist, fundamentalist. And he said, okay, concede the point. I think he decided that he didn't want to push the boundary there or push, his wording anymore. So he sort of backtracked a little bit. Okay, fine. Lady got her point in. Mark got her point in. But the fact of the matter is that, when you're using these kind of words, they do have a matter. And as the lady said, a lot of this stuff about Islam and Muslims is being pushed from Saudi Arabia and Wahhabism and from places of extremism within the religion. It would be the same thing if in a Muslim country or an Eastern country or somewhere out there, all they got was a steady diet through news, social media, newspapers, race baiters, from the other side as well, basically saying, oh, Christianity, it's all Ku Klux Klan members, all KKK. They hate blacks, they hate browns, they hate Latinos, they hate Mexicans. They hate everybody except white people. And you get that steady diet every single freaking day. Well, of course you're going to start thinking that, hey, that's what Christianity is all about. Or Judaism. It's all about, people. It's what's happening in Israel, what they're doing with the Palestinians, the whole Palestinian, Israeli crisis. I mean, it's just continuous bombardment from those camps. And it happens in the West, it happens in the East, it happens in the North, it happens in the South, it happens all over. Unfortunately, it does. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel. Like, share, and follow us. Hit those notification bells. Check out our videos here and there, and the links above and below. My final thought, when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.